morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio, and I show you quite a lot of Japanese deck lists on this channel. But sometimes I want to show you decks which are in our current format at the moment, and are winning in our current format at the moment. Now the reality is, Japan is just better at having weird decks that win tournaments. Maybe it's the fact that by the time we get the cards, Japan's already had them for 1 to 3 months, so we've already kind of distilled their format down. Maybe we're just less inventive. But the good news is there is a very inventive person who went and got 37th place at the Madison Regional Championships, Braden Elfert if anyone's wondering, with Blissey. And this is like a full-on Blissey deck. This isn't one of those, it plays a couple of Blissey decks. This is a full-on Blissey deck built around Blissey. But it really does still revolve around Welder. Welder is one of those cards that just helps so much stuff. And there's a full 4 copies in here. We'll get there in a moment. First, let's remind ourselves what Blissey actually does. Blissey's got the wonderfully named Happiness Supplement ability. Once during your turn, you may remove a special condition from your active Pokemon. It's not the reason we play Blissey, but it's a pretty nice advantage to just be able to get rid of special conditions. It means if you find your opponent trying to get a bit of paralysis going on, trying to buy themselves a turn, etc., you can be like, maybe not, mate, and you can stop them, which is kind of cool. The real reason we play Blissey, however, is for the, again, wonderfully named, Powerful Slap. Flip a coin for each energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 80 damage for each heads. Now that's a minimum of 3 damage, but the ideal situation here is you attach as much energy as you possibly can. Now if you put 3 energy on here and you're able to hit 3 heads, brilliant! Down goes Pikachu and Zekrom. It's not terribly likely, if I'm honest with you, because, well, there's a 1 in 8 chance of that happening. But let's say you've got 6 energy on. Well, if you've got 6 energy on, then we expect you to hit 3 heads. So we expect you to hit 240, and down goes Pikachu and Zekrom. And there's all kinds of decisions. One of the most annoying things about this deck, or I suppose most challenging things we could say, is knowing how much energy to put on Blissey. Because the more energy you put onto a particular Blissey, the greater the chance you'll hit the heads you need in order to get the KO. But the more difficult it will then be to get the energy onto the next Blissey. So it can get a little bit awkward. Now, in terms of this Blissey, we've got 3 options for getting the energy on. And I know we're going slightly out of order, but it's the most important thing to look at right now. The best card straight off the bat is Triple Acceleration Energy. Triple Acceleration Energy, when attached to an evolved Pokemon, which Blissey very much is, provides 3 colourless energy, but it falls off at the end of your turn. So the good news is it gives you 3 extra coin flips right now. The bad news is it's only for 1 turn. It's a little bit of a pain. We still play more of those than double colourless energy, because as great as double colourless energy is, it's 1 fewer coin flip, and that could be the difference between getting a KO and winning, or not getting a KO and not winning. And then, of course, we've got the aforementioned Welder. Welder here is wonderful. Welder lets you attach 2 fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon and draw 3 cards. It's the reason why fire decks have gotten so much better lately. I mean, look, Reshiram and Charizard's a great Pokemon, but make no mistake about it. Without Welder, Reshiram and Charizard would be a significantly worse Pokemon. The thing is, we're never really going to know because they were in the same set, so they'll be legal for the exact same amount of time and they will rotate out at the exact same time. But take my word for it, it would be much poorer without it. And that's what we do. We pile energy onto Blissey and we flip. Now there are a couple of other Pokemon here. Obviously we play a Victini, because Victini lets you reflip. Important thing to remember about Victini is it's all or nothing. Either you reflip all of your coins, or you reflip none of your coins. So let's say you flip 4 out of 6, but you really need to flip 5 out of 6. You can reflip, but you're reflipping all 6, and you may well, and statistically speaking, you probably will, hit fewer than 4. We also see a whole heap of Jirachi here. It's quite a lot of Jirachi, in fact. There's 4 Jirachi. But Jirachi in this deck does what Jirachi does in every deck. When it's in the active, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it in your head, Jirachi falls asleep. But don't worry your pretty little head about it, because we're playing Escape Board, which will give free retreat, even if you are asleep. Cool. This just gets you set up. This gets you all of your trainer cards. We'll go through the trainers in a moment, but this is really important for that. And we do play 1 copy of Reshiram and Charizard. It would be lovely if we didn't. It would be lovely if we just played Blissey, and most of the time we're just playing Blissey. But sometimes you want that guaranteed energy. Now, if you can get 6 fire energy on 2 Charizard, 300 going through any effects on the defending Pokemon is great. But in this deck, you're unlikely to be able to get 6 energy on there too easily. But it is there if you really need it. This gives you guaranteed damage, 4 energy, 230. The thing is, if we put 4 energy on a Blissey, we can do up to 320, but we're expecting 160, which, I mean, let's be honest here, it's not as good. Now, in terms of the trainer line here, I've already mentioned we play a full 4 copies of Welder, because Welder is huge here. In terms of draw supporters, we play 3 Lily and 1 Cynthia. They are the best draw supporters we've got. It shouldn't surprise you to see that they are the ones coming out in this particular deck. Couple copies of Guzma, dragging Pokemon off the bench to carry them is big, but also it's acts as a switch for Jirachi. Speaking of which, we also play a switch for Jirachi. There's not as much switching as I would usually expect in a deck like this. Couple of Guzma, 1 switch is not exactly the most we've ever seen, but we can use Jirachi as often as we need to, and that should be enough. 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Nest Ball. Again, this is fairly straightforward and, not to sound mean, but almost predictable as a Pokemon search line. And I don't say that as a bad thing. Nest Ball gets your basics, Ultra Ball gets your evolutions. We're only playing 3 Blissey, so playing 3 Ultra Ball helps us make sure we find them. It's consistent. Couple of Pokegear to grab out our supporters means we're more likely to hit that Welder when we really need it, for argument's sake. 2 Fiery Flint, because as much as Welder will attach extra energy, it's got to be in your hand. Fiery Flint will help with that. 2 Fire Crystal, because Fiery Flint only gets energy from the deck. Fire Crystal gets it from the discard. Couple copies of Rescue Stretcher. You really want to make your opponent take down 6 Blissey in order to win here. And the chances are they're going to take some cheeky KOs on something like Jirachi. If they're really lucky, they're going to be able to take down Reshiram and Charizard. But this at least means that you can get your Blisseys back. We're also only playing 1 Victini, and it's pretty important. So, nice to be able to recover that as well. 2 copies of Wishful Baton. Now, this is actually really big because it lets you keep your energy. It doesn't accelerate energy, but it preserves your energy. If your active Pokemon gets KO'd, you get to take 3 basic energy from that Pokemon, assuming it's got Wishful Baton attached, of course, and attach it to one of your benched Pokemon. It keeps energy on the field. It won't help with something like triple acceleration energy, but if you've got a bunch of fire energy on a Blissey, this will be your friend. 1 copy of Choice Band to hit the numbers. Hopefully we can hit enough heads, but it's nice to have the extra 30 there if we need it. And 1 copy of Heat Factory Prism Star. Heat Factory Prism Star here. Discard a fire energy from your hand, draw 3 cards. It's good draw, but one thing you need to be careful of with this particular deck, you're only playing a single stadium. So if you put this down too early, or your opponent's playing more than 1 stadium, they can play something like a Thunder Mountain or a Life Forest Prism Star and actually have it stick there for the entire game because you're only playing 1 stadium. And if you put this down before your opponent plays their Prism Star stadium, they can have it in for the rest of the game. I love this deck. I don't think I will ever play it myself. I am terrified of coin flips, but I love that it's a little bit different, a little bit inventive, and it did pretty gosh darn well in a regional championship that frankly had a lot of players in. But I'd like to know if you think this is viable. Do you think this is a good deck? Do you think it's going to make waves? Or do you think it's one of those decks which is fun to play here and there, but unlikely to make waves in the long run? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where we talk about games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.